Let's look at some of the new railing capabilities that we now have. We'll work with this railing and the stairwell railing on the second floor of this plan, and we see them here in the 3D view. This is the loft railing on the edge of the loft that looks down below. The railing and deck wall tools have now been combined into a single menu with this submenu and coordinated with a single drop-down. So I'll click the straight railing tool. Several new railing component specifications are now available, and we'll review some of the ways to coordinate them. These balustered stair railings in this plan were generated based on the railing defaults that we'll find in defaults. So I'll double click here and we'll look at the railing defaults. In the general panel, we see railing is checked and the thickness is 4.5 inches. This is essentially based on a wall type, the interior railing. And if we look at it, we'll see it's 4.5 inches in overall width, with framing and drywall on both sides. If we go to the rail style panel, we'll see that the specified railing style is balusters. And if we go to newels and balusters, we'll see that the newel post width is 2 inches with a slightly narrower baluster. And if we go to the rails tab, we'll see that the top rail here is 2 inches wide, and the other rail that we can see, the bottom rail, is 2 inches wide. So the available rails, top, middle, and bottom, are defaulting to a 2-inch width, and the beam is defaulting to a separate value. But what we have here are 2-inch widths setting the thickness of what we see in the 3D view. The railing wall we see in plan is 4 inches, or actually 4.5, because it's based on this wall type. So if we were to choose a rail style of solid, we would have an exact match between what we see in plan for width and what we see in 3D for width. And if we wanted to, we could make the baluster style match what we see in 3D in a couple of ways. First of all, we could change this. We could change the rails. I'll just change the top rail to a width of 4.5. And in newels and balusters, I could change the newels to 4.5 inches wide, and the preview shows us what we could accomplish. Alternately, we could go here and we could simply modify this to bring the wall thickness that shows in plan to match this. Let's go back to rail style and note that if we choose the panel style and go to newels and balusters, that we could set a panel thickness, and we can set it separately and independently from the baluster width. So let's look at an example that uses this new capability as well as others, and we'll change our panel's thickness to 3/16, and we'll change the type by choosing a type from the library, and we'll drill down until we get to fences and railings, decorator, and let's use the radial. Notice we can't change the balusters right now. We must first change the rail style to one appropriate for balusters, then come back to newels and panels. We'll find panels grayed out and balusters available. And I'll set the baluster width to 1/2 inch. And I'm working on a steel railing assembly, so we'll use some fairly small sizes, and I better bring the baluster spacing down a little bit too. And we'll change the newels to 1 inch, tab. And notice how the preview is helping us out quite a bit. We can see the top and bottom rails still need work though. So we'll go to rails, and the default top rail is here. Let's change its width to 1 and its height to 1. Find the bottom rail and do the same, 1 by 1. And if we look closely in the preview, notice there's something else we might want to do. Let's run the rail over the post, and that's another rail style setting, post to rail, and that looks about right. These default settings are static, so we can set them up, draw certain railings one way, then change these defaults and draw another set of railings without affecting the first set of railings. They'll remain unchanged. However, materials are an exception. So we'll hold off on making materials changes in defaults, and we'll change individual railings later. So I'll click OK, and notice our existing railings don't change. So I'll have to draw a new railing, and I'll just replace the loft railing. I should be able to select it, delete it, and it's already selected here, so I can just pick up the snap maybe and draw across and draw a new railing. And notice how much thinner it is. So it's following our new default settings. So now I want to use the break wall tool. And I don't have any precise locations, though normally we would dimension in where we want these breaks to go, but I'm just going to click here and roughly here. And then I want to right click to select this wall, open it, and we're going to change it from the rail style balusters to the rail style panels. Click OK. And now let's select all three of these walls. I'll shift drag in railing wall mode to select all three. Open these walls and we'll change the materials here. So we need to change the baluster material to a plan material. I'll type BL to jump down to black steel, and the newel will change to black steel, and the rail and the panel. And let's click OK. And notice the effect. Now let's look at how we can control the railing cap overhang. Press Escape here in Plan and wheel into the stairwell. And I want to select all of the stairwell railing walls that are now balustered. So I should be in the right tool mode. I'll just shift drag, selecting the group. We'll open them. We'll go to rail style to change to the solid style. Let's click OK and notice the change in our 3D view. And notice the top rail. It's following the defaults, which called for a 2" by 2" top rail. So we can easily modify this now. We'll just reopen our selected walls, go to the Rails tab. The top rail is the one already selected for us. So let's replace the profile, and we'll drill down. Here's the handrails folder, and I'll select this one. I'll double click on it. And note the values here. For the selected profile, I can specify different values. I like the 1¼ height. I'll keep that, but the width has to change. And note one thing we can do is say, give me an automatic width. And what we see here in the preview of this little curved section of the walls is that the top rail will go flush with the outside edge of the wall. And we'll also see when we click OK and look at it here in 3D that it flushes on the sides and extends out over a little bit on the end of an unconnected wall. Now let's reopen this, uncheck automatic width, and decide we want to do a manual width. It's a 4½ wide wall, so I'm going to type 5.5 and click OK. And now I have a situation where I'm overhanging a ½ inch on each side, and I still have a little bit of overhang over the end of an unconnected wall. And notice our top rail is connecting nicely at the corners and intersections. And let's look at one final thing. Our walls are already selected. So let's click this edit tool that's available for the selected walls. Build framing for the selected objects. Click it, and the framing will generate for just the walls we've selected. And we see that now solid railings, as well as pony walls, can display framing in the plan view.